This is the moment of truth. Are the rats still living in here? And do I need to get a one-way trap for the rats? A couple of weeks ago, I created a video for a company about pressure washing. And in the process of making that video, I discovered that this drain hole was absolutely filled with rat's poo. Naturally, this really gave me the ick because it means that rats are moving around in my drains and do, in essence, have access to my property. And we don't want that. But let's see if there's loads of rat poop in here. I was hoping to go for a dramatic reveal and open this up quickly, and maybe like a rat would pop out and it would scare everybody, but it took me absolutely ages to get this ruddy thing off, so... Oh no. I'm just realising as I watch this back, this probably isn't the job to be doing in your toeless slippers. This is cast iron, so I can imagine it would probably pack a punch if it landed on my toes. There we have lots of rat poo. That is not good news. So they're still spending time in this drain. I'm going to measure the width of that pipe so I can buy a device that won't allow them to come up through the drains. That seagull's a paid actor. I was fumbling here a bit because I desperately didn't want to touch the tape measure with my gloves. Gosh, it's actually quite hard to measure. So this has been cemented over. It's like 3 inches, Emily. I think I need to work on my camera angles. I faffed about trying to measure this for a fair bit longer. That's because the white pipe you can see has been previously replaced. This has caused the hole to be smaller, so the hole is not actually now a standard width. 3¼ inches was what I ended up deciding was the width of the pipe as it is now. I thought that you might like a close-up. Every time that someone says to me the life of a social media influencer must be glamorous, I shall show them this video. That is not a great start to the day. Oh my goodness, watch your toes. The toes, careful with the toes. Oh my goodness, scared the life out of me. Since I was passing through my workshop, I decided that I ought to cut some of the extra bits of wood that I need for the additional shelves I'm doing next to the wood burner. The piece that I just showed you was salvaged off of another project, and I want to not waste them. Just reminding myself in this book of the measurements that I need to cut. But before I could actually cut down these couple of pieces of salvaged wood, I realised that they still had screws in them, keeping them together. So I needed to take those out first. I don't mind too much that they've had previous screw holes in, because obviously these are going to be contained inside of the shelves once they're installed. I've got a bunch of stuff to do today that doesn't involve doing these extra shelves, but sometimes just doing 1 or 2 bits towards a project can be super helpful. I now have the exciting task of finding a unit for my drain that will stop the rats from coming up and settling in that little drain space. Here's a couple that I was looking at recently. I hadn't bought them because I didn't know exactly what size my drain was, which is why I was out there. That's why I was measuring it. Let's have a look. They're also not very cheap, and I would prefer where possible to get one that's quite inexpensive. So 4 inches, 110 millimeters wide. This is going to be too big for my drain. So this is 4 inches wide. My drain is only 3¼ It's 3¼ because I have 2 pipes that have been fit together in quite a bizarre way. This is the second option that I was looking at. It's smaller. It looks like I could potentially squeeze it smaller a little bit easier than the other one that has a join in the middle. It's about £53, which is a bit more than I wanted to spend, but it is the cost of it. So I think this is the one that I will pick up. This piece here is used to help you get it into the drain, and it's also a way of taking it back out again if you need to. Here were some other options that I had considered, but decided against because they were plastic. I had seen some feedback in the comments which showed rats actually biting through the plastic and getting through. As per usual, I'm not doing the stuff today that I'm supposed to be doing. What I'm supposed to be doing today is generating applications and data that I want to submit to get funding for my clothing business that I'm developing. That's not what I've been doing. I have been buying stuff for my drains, as you saw. The other thing that I'm doing that we'll need to do within the next half an hour is publish a video on behalf of a brand about installing a water butt. It's actually something I'm really excited to publish because I'm always looking for different DIYs that people can do that are more sustainable, more ethical, that will save people money. And installing a water butt is one of those things, especially with the heat wave that we had last year. I don't know about you, but a lot of my plants died because we couldn't water them when we had such a problem with the heat wave. So water butts are a really great way to save some of that water and utilise it. It's also a good way to water your plants indoors as well, because they prefer rainwater, most of them, over regular tap water that's filled with chlorine. I had a little boost of energy and decided to put up the supports for the other two shelves in the little alcove next to the wood burner flue. It always amazes me that once you roughly know what you need to do, maybe you've tried it just the once, how much quicker you can do it the second and the third time. I decided to make the two top shelves slightly more recessed. This is because they were actually very, very close to the blinds, and I didn't want there to be any risk of the blinds catching when they were fully open. I'm not totally sure why I've decided on the location of these two shelves. I just figured that the top shelf, it would be good if I could sort of see what was up there and not have to reach too high. I've been playing with the idea of using this as somewhere to store my yoga mat, which is big and cumbersome. Getting this plasterboard screw in here was an absolute disaster, and it took off loads of the plaster and bent the plug. The reason is because there is a stud behind here. So I'm actually able to drill directly into the wood itself. So I'm not going to put a plasterboard screw in that one. I managed to get both sets of supports up, so all I have to do now is cut the tops and the bases and the fronts. But that's a project for another day. It has still probably taken me about an hour to cut these pieces and install them, but considering that this bottom shelf took me a whole day, I guess I'm making progress. Whatever I do decide to put up here, at least it's better than having an odd-looking dead space. I had a delightful surprise expense in my business last week, which was that I dropped my phone and it smashed and it cracked the screen. It makes it very hard to record video and to just generally use my phone as often I do, which is most of the day, most of the time. So I've actually picked up a phone. It is the same brand as the one that I currently use, which is really handy because it means that I know how to use it and everything that I have fits, including my current phone case. I need to get a separate one for this. So any recommendations you have about case brands, I'd love to hear them. That's all from me today as I sit down to enjoy some chickpea curry taken directly out of the freezer in my freezer potluck. If you enjoyed this episode, please do consider subscribing, and I'll see you tomorrow.